In the final year of World War II, a terrifying new weapon emerged from the skies over the Pacific, the kamikaze. Japanese pilots on a one-way mission would slam their explosive-laden aircraft directly into American warships. This wasn't just another type of attack. It was a psychological and tactical nightmare that pushed the U.S. Navy to the absolute brink. The established rules of naval warfare and damage control were suddenly obsolete. What followed was a desperate, brilliant, and brutal race for survival, driven not by admirals in distant headquarters, but by the sailors and officers fighting for their lives on the decks of burning ships. Before the kamikazes, damage control was a well-drilled but centralized process. You had specific teams, designated repair lockers, and protocols for everything. But a kamikaze didn't follow the rules. It didn't just punch a hole in the hull, it delivered a catastrophic explosion, fuel, and fire deep inside the ship, often severing power, knocking out communication, and wiping out entire damage control parties in a single, fiery instant. The system was designed to handle damage, but not the simultaneous, overwhelming chaos a kamikaze unleashed. The stark reality of this new threat hit home on October 25, 1944. During the Battle of Leyte Gulf, the escort carrier USS St. Lo was struck by a single A-6M0 fighter. The plane crashed through the flight deck, triggering massive explosions among the ship's own armed and fueled aircraft. Fires raged uncontrollably, and within just 30 minutes, the order was given to abandon ship. Less than an hour after being hit, the St. Lo slipped beneath the waves. Her fate was a terrifying wake-up call. The Navy's existing methods were not enough. Survival would require a radical new way of thinking. Out of this crucible of fire and steel, a new philosophy was born: improvise, adapt, overcome. On ships across the fleet, sailors began rewriting the damage control playbook on the fly. They saw that centralized repair lockers were a death trap. If the one locker on your side of the ship was destroyed, you were defenseless. So, they started decentralizing. They took extra fire hoses, pumps, and tools and stashed them all over the ship, especially in areas they knew were likely to be hit, like near anti-aircraft gun mounts and the bridge. They didn't ask for permission, they just did it. Welders and metalsmiths began scavenging scrap metal to create makeshift splinter shields around critical positions, hoping to give the gun crews a few extra seconds of life. Crews cross-trained each other. A gunner's mate learned how to operate a fire pump, and an engineer learned basic first aid. Everyone had to become a damage control man, because when the attack came, the designated expert might be gone. It was a grassroots revolution, born of necessity. Perhaps no ship better exemplifies this spirit than the destroyer USS Laffey, famously known as the ship that would not die. On April 16, 1945, off Okinawa, the Laffey endured one of the most concentrated aerial assaults in naval history. Over an 80-minute period, she was attacked by 22 Japanese aircraft, struck by 6 kamikazes, and hit by 4 bombs. By all rights, she should have been at the bottom of the ocean. But her captain, Frederick Julian Beckton, was a forward thinker. Anticipating the kamikaze threat, he had already implemented many of the new improvised tactics. Firefighting equipment was dispersed all over the ship. Redundant emergency piping was run along the decks to ensure water could get to fires even if the main lines were severed. They had stockpiled the new wonder weapon in firefighting, foam. Known as bean soup, this chemical foam was far more effective against gasoline and oil fires than water alone. Beckton's foresight and his crew's relentless training paid off. They fought fires, patched holes, and kept the guns firing even as their ship was being torn apart around them. The Laffey survived, a battered but triumphant testament to the power of preparation. The story of the aircraft carrier USS Franklin is another harrowing lesson. Struck by 2 bombs in March 1945, the Franklin was turned into a floating inferno. The initial blasts ignited fully fueled and armed aircraft on her flight and hangar decks, creating a sea of burning aviation fuel. Water was almost useless against this kind of fire. It just spread the burning fuel further. The crew found themselves in a desperate fight, but the ship's design worked against them. Armored doors, meant to contain explosions, now trapped sailors and prevented firefighting teams from reaching the blaze. What saved the Franklin? Again, it was innovation under pressure. Sailors used portable, gasoline-powered pumps, nicknamed Handy Billies, to draw water directly from the sea when the ship's fire mains failed. They broke out the precious foam concentrate to smother the stubborn fuel fires and rescue parties with immense courage. Used cutting torches to slice through the very armored doors that were supposed to protect them, creating pathways to save trapped shipmates and fight the fires from new angles. The Franklin's ordeal, which cost over 800 lives, tragically highlighted the inadequacy of old methods, but also proved the value of portable pumps, firefighting foam, and the grim necessity of being able to cut your way through your own ship to save it. The Navy was learning, and learning fast. At forward bases like Ulithi Atoll, a new kind of miracle was taking place. Heavily damaged ships would limp into the lagoon, seemingly destined for a scrapyard. But the Naval Construction Battalions, the famous CBs, were there. Working with the ship's surviving crew and specialized repair ships, they performed incredible feats of naval surgery. They would cannibalize parts from unsalvageable wrecks, weld massive patches onto gaping holes, and rewire entire sections of a ship. Their motto was "Can Do," and they lived it, using little more than salvaged debris and sheer ingenuity to get these warships patched up and sent back into the fight in weeks, sometimes even days. By the late spring of 1945, as the brutal Okinawa campaign raged, these scattered improvised solutions began to form a clear pattern. The lessons learned in blood were being shared across the fleet. The best practices became obvious. Install secondary fire mains, often run exposed along the main deck. Pre-position foam stations near aviation fuel storage and flight decks. Shield critical steam lines and electrical cables. And have plenty of portable gasoline pumps ready to go. The Navy's Bureau of Ships started issuing official directives, turning these battlefield innovations into standard procedure. The destroyer USS Hadley provides one last dramatic example. On May 11, 1945, she was hit by 3 kamikazes and a bomb in quick succession. Her engineering spaces were flooded. She lost all power, and her entire stern was nearly severed. A massive fire raged amidships, yet the Hadley did not sink. A small, determined damage control party led by a single officer used portable, handy-billy pumps to contain the fires and control the flooding. Their training, their preparation, and their refusal to give up kept their ship afloat against impossible odds. In the end, the difference between a ship that sank and a ship that survived often came down to a matter of minutes. It came down to the mindset of the crew and their ability to think and act under unimaginable pressure. The core lesson was simple and profound. Do what works before you get hit. It was about trusting the practical, hands-on experience of the machinists, the welders, and the sailors on the deck over the rigid doctrines written in peacetime. After the war, these hard-won lessons were not forgotten. They became the foundation of modern U.S. Navy damage control. The emphasis on redundant systems, the widespread use of firefighting foam for fuel fires, and the principle of positioning equipment based on tactical reality rather than convenient design, all of this became permanent doctrine. Taught religiously at damage control schools, the legacy of the men who fought the kamikazes is etched into the very design and operation of every naval vessel today. They proved that, in the face of an unprecedented threat, the most powerful weapon is human ingenuity, courage, and the relentless will to survive. Thanks for watching. If you found this piece of naval history as fascinating as I do, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of innovation and courage. See you in the next video.